All right, get ready because today we're going to be diving into, like, the core of cyberpunk.
Yeah.
But we're not just here for the cool tech, we're going full on cyberpunk anthropology,
I love it.
really trying to unpack how this fiction, how it reflects,
Yeah.
and maybe even like predicts how
Sure.
we're evolving as our tech evolves too.
That's like holding up a funhouse mirror.
Oh, for sure.
To society, it's distorted, sure,
Yeah.
but it shows us things we might not see otherwise.
Yeah, you get those weird angles.
Exactly.
And today, to guide this deep dive,
Yeah.
we've got this really cool video essay from Immune Films.
Great essay.
And it breaks down how, honestly, what was once pure sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
is starting to feel a little too real.
A little too close for comfort.
Too close for comfort.
Yeah.
And they start off by, taking us back to the roots. Cyberpunk, systems
Yeah.
meeting that anti-establishment kind of rebellion.
Right. That clash.
And of course, you've got William Gibson's Neuromancer solidifying that whole thing.
It's amazing because Gibson coined the term cyberspace back in '83.
Oh, wow.
Like way before the internet was a thing for most people.
Yeah.
It's like these authors were tapping into something, some deeper current
Yeah.
about where technology was taking us.
Totally. And the video, it points out all these other like iconic cyberpunk works.
Yeah.
Ghost in the Shell, The Matrix, even like Blade Runner. Right?
Yeah.
It's not just about giving us cool tech. It's about building societies around that tech. Megacities, corporations with like more power than governments, the whole human machine line getting all blurry.
Blurred lines, yeah.
Have you noticed any of that like bleeding into your own life?
Totally. And that's where the anthropology, I think, gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because it's not just about the gadgets, right?
Yeah.
It's about how people adapt, how they form communities, how they grapple with these power structures around them.
Okay.
For example, the video essay. It talks about how important megacities are to cyberpunk.
Yeah, like everybody's always crammed into these
Huge, sprawling urban landscapes.
And that makes sense considering by 2050, like 70% of us are projected to be living in these urban areas.
Exactly. It's like they saw it coming, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But it's more than just, like, how many people are there?
Yeah. Right. What else?
The video talks about urban isolation, the rise of subcultures.
Oh, right. Okay.
All of that. It's almost like they looked at our social media feeds and said, this is the future.
Yeah. And it gets even eerier when they start talking about corporations.
Right.
The video uses Mr. Robot as an example with Evil Core.
Oh, yeah.
Which is basically like a stand-in for any tech giant.
Right. Any of them.
That we interact with on a daily basis.
It's a little on the nose, isn't it?
Okay, that is a little too real.
A little too real.
But it makes you think, are we all just cogs in the machine?
Right.
Thankfully, cyberpunk gives us hackers.
Yeah.
Those digital rebels fighting the man, sticking it to the system.
Sticking it to the system.
The video, it really digs into that whole, like, freedom fighter versus control dynamic.
Yeah, that tension.
And they bring in this fascinating anthropology concept.
Okay, this is where it gets good.
All right, lay it on me.
Marcel Mauss's theory of the gift.
The gift, okay.
Now, stick with me here.
I'm here.
Because Mauss, he argued that every gift, even something as simple as sharing information, comes with these unspoken obligations, you see.
Oh, okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
So think about cyberpunk hackers. They're constantly exchanging knowledge, tools, sometimes favors.
Yeah, trading secrets.
Exactly. It creates this network of reciprocity.
Okay.
The video's argument is that this actually echoes Mauss's theory.
Interesting.
Showing how even these seemingly rebellious acts are rooted in these deeper social structures.
So these lone wolf hackers, they're not so lone wolf after all.
Exactly. They're part of this intricate web of obligation, of exchange.
Wow, that's a cool way to look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
It adds this whole other layer to their actions.
Totally.
And we see this with some of the most iconic cyberpunk figures.
Like who?
Neo from The Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Even the Puppet Master in Ghost in the Shell.
Okay.
Their hacking, it's driven by this idea of disrupting these power dynamics. You know?
Yeah, they're not just out for themselves.
Exactly.
They're trying to shake things up.
Exactly. They're playing a role in this larger social system.
Wow, that is a really cool way to think about it.
Right. It makes you question those easy categories of like good and bad, hero and villain.
Yeah, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
This is already blowing my mind.
And we're just getting started.
I can't wait to see where we go next.
We neither.
It's like, yeah, one person's hacker is another person's, like, digital Robin Hood.
Exactly.
It all depends on, like, where you're standing, right?
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these cyberpunk stories so interesting. They don't give us easy answers.
Right.
They're full of these, like, moral gray areas.
Totally.
Which really reflects, I think, the complexity of our own world.
For sure.
And one of the things the video does really well is it shows how these fictional worlds, they're actually built on real-world anthropological ideas.
I like that.
Take urban tribes, for instance.
Oh, yeah, the video mentioned, like, sociologist Michel Mathesoli.
Yes.
He's the one who, like, coined that term, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
Mathesoli, he was looking at how people were finding connection and meaning in these, like, huge, sprawling urban environments.
Yeah, because it can be kind of alienating sometimes.
Exactly. And he argued that these subcultures, these urban tribes, they provided this sense of belonging.
Right. Like, you find your people.
Exactly.
Okay.
And think about the classic cyberpunk archetypes we see.
Okay, yeah.
The hackers, right?
In their dimly lit basements.
Exactly. Huddled over their computers.
Yeah.
You've got the punks with their DIY tech and their rebellious attitudes.
Oh, yeah.
The corporate drones all plugged into the system.
Yeah, yeah.
Each of those, it represents a distinct tribe.
Okay.
With its own rituals, its own aesthetics.
It's like they've got their own, like, little cultures within the culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because these fictional groups, they actually mirror a lot of real-world subcultures.
That's so true.
Think about it. The cyberpunk kids today, with their black leather, the neon, coding all night.
Right.
They're not that different from, like, the punk rockers of the past, rebelling against the mainstream.
Yeah, with their music, their fashion.
Exactly. It's that same spirit.
It's like that desire to, like, find your people, find your tribe.
And the video highlights how that drive to find your people, it's only becoming more intense.
Because of technology.
Exactly. Yeah. Because technology can be isolating.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But it can also be incredibly connecting.
Oh, it's like a double-edged sword.
Precisely. A paradox that cyberpunk really leans into.
Totally. And as our cities get, like, smarter, more digital, more interconnected, what new tribes are going to, like, pop up?
That's the question, isn't it?
What's going to bring them together?
It's fascinating to think about.
It really is.
And it leads to another really crucial point the video makes.
Okay, what's that?
The relationship between technology and social hierarchy.
Ooh. Okay, so, like, who has the power?
Exactly. Because in cyberpunk, the people who control the tech, they often control everything else.
That makes sense, yeah.
The video uses this Japanese term, zaibatsu,
oh, okay.
to illustrate this.
Okay.
Think of them like mega corporations.
Okay.
But with even more power.
Oh, no.
Often controlling, like, entire sectors of the economy.
How?
The government, even people's lives.
It's giving, like, serious Blade Runner vibes right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not as far-fetched as it might seem.
Really?
Think about the influence of tech giants in our world today.
Okay, yeah.
The data they collect.
That's a lot.
The algorithms they control.
Right.
The ways they shape how we see the world.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you actually think about it.
It is, and it's a power dynamic that Cyberpunk has been warning us about.
For decades.
For decades.
And it's not just corporations either, right?
Right.
Governments can get in on that game, too.
Absolutely.
Remember all those cyberpunk stories about surveillance states?
Oh, yeah.
Big Brother's always watching?
Yeah, that doesn't seem so fictional these days, does it?
Not so much, no.
The video brings up Ghost in the Shell as a perfect example.
Oh, yeah. What about it?
Remember how the film explores this idea of a character's ghost?
Their ghost, okay.
Which is basically their consciousness, their soul, even.
Right.
And how that ghost can be hacked.
Oh, no.
Manipulated, even erased.
That's terrifying.
It is a chilling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it raises all these unsettling questions.
Like what?
About identity, about privacy, about free will.
Wow.
What happens when technology gives someone, whether it's a corporation, a government, even just a really skilled hacker, the power to manipulate our very essence?
It's a lot.
It is.
That's heavy stuff.
It is heavy stuff.
So Cyberpunk is kind of forcing us to confront these, like, uncomfortable truths about the world we're building.
It asks us,
what
does it even mean to be human? In a world where the line between our physical selves and our digital selves is becoming more and more blurry?
It's a good question. It's almost like we're living in a cyberpunk novel.
Yeah, totally.
That's still being written.
Right, and we're all contributing to the plot.
And we're all the characters.
Exactly.
It's a trip.
It really is, and it goes back to that question
Yeah.
that anthropologists have been, like, grappling with forever.
What is it?
What does it even mean to be human?
Right.
When tech is so intertwined with, like, our very existence.
Yeah. Are we still human if we're part machine?
That's the question, and Cyberpunk just takes it to the extreme.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the video does a really good job of like pulling out these examples of how this stuff is already happening. Like, we might not have flying cars yet.
Right.
But our cities are becoming these like interconnected digital...
Like these digital ecosystems.
Ecosystems. Yeah, it's wild.
It's like, think about the rise of smart cities.
Right.
Surveillance tech everywhere you look.
Always watching.
And even just like how our physical and digital selves, they're practically merging at this point.
They're becoming one and the same. Yeah, scary.
It's all straight out of like a cyberpunk anthology.
It really is.
And then you've got
the
whole transhumanism thing.
Oh, yeah, transhumanism. Right.
We might not have cyborgs walking around.
Not yet.
At least not that we know of.
Right, right.
But the idea of like enhancing our bodies, our minds, with technology is becoming more real every day.
Yeah. It's not science fiction anymore.
Biohacking, genetic engineering, brain-computer interfaces.
It's like we're trying to become the robots.
Right. And the ethical questions that cyberpunk wrestles with.
Yeah, like what are the ethics of all this?
Like who gets access to this tech? How does it actually change us?
Right.
Those questions aren't just theoretical anymore.
It's all becoming real.
They're real-world problems now.
It's a lot, and it's kind of like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, it can be.
But is there a way that cyberpunk can, like, inspire us, too?
Absolutely.
As we're building this future?
I think it reminds us that technology isn't inherently good or bad.
Right.
It's a tool.
Okay.
And just like any other tool, it all comes down to who's using it.
Right. Who's controlling it.
And what they're trying to build with it.
Okay, so for someone listening to this right now, who's like taking in all these connections, cyberpunk, anthropology, the world around us, what's like the big takeaway?
I think the most important thing is to stay, engaged.
Engaged.
And critical.
Okay.
Don't just passively accept whatever tech comes your way.
Right.
Ask questions.
Question everything.
Challenge assumptions.
Okay, I like that.
The future isn't like pre-programmed.
Okay.
We're all writing the code as we go.
It's like cyberpunk is giving us a sneak peek at the source code and saying, like, hey, you can rewrite this if you want.
You have the power.
It's your story.
Exactly. And that's a really empowering message.
It is.
We have agency.
Right.
We have choices to make.
And if our lives are becoming like a cyberpunk story, let's at least make it one worth telling.
One for the history books.
Right. Exactly.
That's something to think about, right?
Yeah, it really is.
A challenge for our listeners.
That is all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Great conversation.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always,
stay curious.
Thanks for listening.